Welcome to Book for Lunch. It is nice to see everyone today on this sunny spring morning. If you enjoy Book for Lunch, the Bay County Library System offers other great programs at your library that you may be interested in. I encourage you to check out our newsletter, which is available here on the table and also at any of the Bay County Library branches, or visit our website, baycountylibrary.org. Now, I would like to introduce you to our presenter, Robin Devereaux-Nelson, author of In Violet's Wake. Robin is a native of Linwood and a lifelong resident of the Saginaw Bay area. She has also been writing for most of her life, starting as a child. Robin received her Creative Writing Certificate and Associate of Arts degree at Delta College and has continued her education at both SVSU and CMU. Robin was the 2012 winner of the Fabry Literary Prize for her first novel, In Violet's Wake. We are excited to have Robin here today, so please join me in welcoming Robin Devereaux-Nelson.
Thank you. Can you hear me back there in the back? Yeah. Way in the back row? Hi. I'm Robin. It's really nice to see so many people here. I'm really excited. This is one reason that I absolutely love libraries, and this community is so lucky to have two really, really beautiful libraries. I spent much of my life on the west side. Always, I made sure, within walking distance of the stage, because I like to spend a lot of time there. So it's really nice to see everybody supporting the library. It's amazing. I have been writing most of my life. One of the ladies here asked me when I started writing. And technically, I suppose, I started writing when I was 3. I couldn't really write yet. But my parents had this huge reel-to-reel tape recorder, you know, gigantic, and it had this big square microphone. And they would set me in our library, probably because I had been getting into things and they needed me to be quiet and, you know, be a good kid. They would set me in the library and turn the reel-to-reel on, and I would make up stories. Most of them were about how this really horrible little baby was now in our house that was taking up a lot of my mom's attention, so the baby was always kind of the, you know, antagonist in every story. And listening to those stories now, it's a little embarrassing. You know, I don't like to play those for my sister because they're kind of a complex. But, when I was growing up, and I was a farm kid, we worked on the farm. So doing creative things like drawing and painting and writing and singing, those were kind of a waste of time. If you were doing those things, you weren't being responsible because there was always work to do on the farm. So after being a cute little kid who made up really silly stories, when I was a teenager, I wasn't really encouraged to write a lot. And I'll tell you the sad story first, then we'll tell happy stories. We'll get the sad over. I was just doing a workshop at Delta this week, and it was a survivor's workshop, and we did some writing. And we were kind of talking about creativity and how a lot of folks don't feel that they're creative people. You know, they'll come up and speak to me and they'll say, I don't have a creative bone in my body. And that just really hurts my heart because I really feel that everybody has that creativity inside of them, and I like to do workshops that I'm kind of sneaky, I pull that out of you. So we were at the workshop, and I was telling this story. When I was in high school and was an angsty kid we had no hair product, you know, at the farm because that was kind of a waste of time. So my hair was always kind of kooky, and I was a little fat girl with glasses, little awkward. I kind of got beat up on the bus a few times. That was me. I was that kid. But I used to write poetry, and I would sneak and write poetry because that was a waste of time. So I'd have the flashlight under my covers at night, and I would write. And I wrote a pretty long poem one time, and it was very angsty, and it was about how I felt about how my parents treated me. And I was in French class one day, and I was lucky to have a French teacher who actually liked us. She wasn't just there to teach the high school kids. she really did like us. And she really kind of sought out the kids who were, like me, kind of the underdogs, the kids who were kind of shy. And she came over to my desk, and this poem was laying on my desk, and she asked me if she could read it. And I was kind of nervous, but I said, sure, you can read it. So while we were studying, she took it up to her desk, and I was kind of looking over my book, watching her read my poem. And she started to cry. And she came over to me and sat and talked to me, and she had these, I will never forget the tears in her eyes, because it was the first time I understood how words could emotionally affect somebody. I thought it was just, all the stuff I was thinking and feeling. I didn't connect my thinking and feeling to anybody else, really. And she asked me if I would read it to the kids in class. And I was kind of scared, because I was the kid that got beat up on the bus. But I went up to the front of the room and I read it. And some of the kids cried too. Some of the boys cried. And then my teacher asked me if she could share my poem with some of the other English teachers. And they had me come in their rooms and read my poem, and they cried, and other kids cried, and I was kind of like famous for a day at school. And I felt amazing, because the words that I wrote, they connected with other people. Then my mom found the poem. My mom was a teacher, and she was a very reading, writing, arithmetic kind of teacher. Very German and staid, and we didn't talk about our feelings. And she was quite angry. She read my poem to my father, and they had a talk with me. And from them I learned it's not okay to write about how I really feel. It's maybe not really okay to write, and I kind of stopped. I wrote a little bit here and there when I was in my 20s and 30s, but nothing much. It was a waste of time. Writing was a waste of time. So fast forward to about 6 years ago. I was working at a big-time job. I was the vice president of a company, and that company downsized. I lost my job and was devastated. And then I realized that this was the universe kicking me in the butt, telling me, this is your time right now. This is your time to do this thing that you've been wanting to do your whole life. So when people walked up to me and asked me what I did, I'd go, I'm a writer. Because it really felt like a lie. It felt like a lie for a long time. Even after In Viola's Wake happened, it still felt like a lie. That book, I was encouraged by my instructors at Delta. I was taking the writing certificate course. And I was encouraged to start submitting, and so I did. And I hadn't had anything picked up in a while. I was writing for money, articles about toe fungus and all kinds of really fun stuff. I was working for a service, so they'd tell me, write about toe fungus, write about tofu, write about, the effects of the sun on your skin, write about anything. So they sent me all this stuff. I was doing that for money. And it felt I felt successful because I was making money writing, but it felt kind of bad. It was taking a lot of my energy, and I wasn't being creative. And I was in a dry spell. I hadn't submitted anything in a while, and I saw this article about a contest for the Fabry Literary Prize. The cool thing was, it was free to enter it. Normally, when you enter a novel contest, you pay big money, $50 to $100, $200 to enter. This one was free. You had to submit your first 100 pages. I was really ticked off that day, so I went, copy, paste, send. There you go, sons of guns. There's my story, and I forgot about it. Till the due date, till the deadline for the contest. And then I was kind of, cyber stalking them, trying to, who won the literary prize, and I couldn't find anything. So I called them, and they said, oh, you're one of the finalists. Send us the rest of your book. Which was cool and horrible, because I had not edited anything. I copied and pasted that day, didn't spell check, didn't do anything. It was a little nerve-wracking. So I sent them the rest of the novel, and we did the waiting game again. I cyber-stalked them again. Had to call them again, and the guy that was running the contest said, oh, it's between you and another guy. We couldn't decide. So we had to wait again. So when they did finally call me and tell me that I won, I was really excited. It was like, I'm a real writer now. Kinda. I still feel kind of like a liar. But, so that was a really wonderful and trying experience, working with a traditional publisher. The contest gave me a little bit of an advance, which is kind of unheard of for a first-time novelist. It's really unheard of. They gave me a budget for marketing. They published the book. They designed my cover. They gave me a team, an editor. If you write and you ever get a chance to work with a professional editor, it's really a great experience. I was lucky to have a fabulous editor. My only issue was the publishing company didn't like the end of my book. So they made me change it 5 times. And the funny thing is, when folks read it, sometimes they come up to me and they say, that doesn't seem like the real ending. And I get to tell them, it's not. This is how it really ends. So this was in Violet's wake. I worked with a fabulous editor. They did some marketing for me, not as much as I had hoped. It is available worldwide and through Ingram, which libraries order from, and bookstores, and Barnes & Noble carries it. And I think this one's here at the library. And then the first Nora Pepper book is here too, I think. After that, I was just really kind of high on being published. So I thought, I could submit anything. These people are going to just publish my books. This is amazing. Not true. I submitted all kinds of things for the next 2 years, and nothing got picked up. And then I met a gentleman, Rick Mercer, and there are probably quite a few Rick Mercer books here. He writes a couple different series. He's from Novi. He is self-published. And he pulled me aside at a book signing and he said, kid, you are an indie writer. You're not a traditional publishing kind of writer. I'm going to show you how to do this. The thing that's very cool about being an indie writer is all the money you make on your books belongs to you. The bad thing about being an indie writer is you are your whole team. That means marketing, everything, and marketing takes up a lot of time, and that's something that I really need to dedicate myself to more. I've got, how much time? I've got an hour? Okay. Let me talk about the books a little bit, and then I have a little excerpt I can read if you guys want me to do that, or we can do questions. The next thing that came out is a little book, Rotten Peaches. This has short stories and flash fiction in it. Flash fiction is kind of fun because some of these stories are only 2 pages long. So this is a really good, I'm sitting in the doctor's office kind of book, and you just need to read something quick. A lot of these started at Delta with my fiction class. One of them, 2 of them, are excerpts from a book, larger book. In fact, Rotten Peaches is kind of a comedy I'm working on about a fictional Michigan town called Gigantic. The book is called Gigantic. And they raise peaches there, and there's a very horrible kind of man who has bought up a lot of folks' farms. So he's kind of lording over the whole community. So the Rotten Peaches is kind of a funny story. So that one's in there. I started a series. It's a mystery and paranormal series. It's called the Nora Pepper Paranormal Series. And Nora Pepper, she's a reluctant psychic. She does not want to be psychic. Being psychic is a crazy, crazy thing. She does not want that. She is a personal chef. And she has kind of a wacky-doodle grandma who, reads tarot cards and does things and wants her to recognize her gifts. But Nora doesn't want to do that. Unfortunately, sometimes ghosts and things talk to her, and she gets involved with some of that. She is still in love with her ex-husband and he with her, but they kind of, you know, gnash teeth at each other. So they're divorced but still in love, and he is a police detective, so she uses her ability to kind of help him solve some mysteries. So that's what Nora Covers about. We have the first book, Pendulum, and that one, you kind of get to know Nora and her family in that book, and she solves the mystery of her missing great aunt, who's she's been missing since 1938. So she solves that mystery. And then in the zone, we are kind of exploring some of the Native American stories of the area, stories of the Wendigo. So that's what happens in the zone. We're kind of getting into that. Her ex-husband is Ojibwe, so we get into that part of the story. My kids' book, kids counselor at the Women's Center for many years, working with the children who had experienced domestic violence, sexual assault, working with parents. And as I worked with parents, I realized that some of the parents who had gone through a lot of the same experiences, they had a hard time telling their kids how cool they were. They had a hard time complimenting their kids. So this book is a self-esteem book, and if a parent reads this to a child, it's telling the child how wonderful they are. It's also a diversity book. We are featuring all kinds of families. We have moms and dads. There's my Native American mom and little boy. They're on the cover. And this one is being used by Head Start right now in Bay County. And this one also has a teacher guide. So we have another form of that book with the story in the front. And then it has the teacher guide in the back. And this follows the TS Gold learning standards for preschool through second grade. So teachers can use this book in lots of different ways to do their diversity units, for the social emotional, for language, for arts, and literary. So all of the activities for teachers are in the back of that one. And then the latest one that came out is You Can Only See Clearly From Here. This is the one that's really close to my heart, and I spent probably about 5 years or more working on this book. The first draft went to the agent who handles Gillian Flynn, who wrote Gone Girl and Sharp Objects. And do you remember Get Smart? I'm like him, I missed it by that much. So she had it for about 2 months, and she was emailing me and told me she really liked it. And in the end, she just said, I just don't like the main character. She's too real. Because the main character really kind of, like us, she makes a lot of mistakes. She doesn't always do the right stuff. She's not a heroine. So she told me I should shop it to other agents and publishers. She was sure somebody would pick it up. But instead, because I really, really wanted this agent, she's a real career builder, especially for women, I threw it in a drawer, and I thought about it for a couple of years. And last summer, I rewrote the book. And it's about two sisters who grew up in the 80s with a bipolar mom. And in the 80s, bipolar disorder was really kind of starting to be diagnosed more, treatments were being tried. The mom would accept treatment and stop treatment, and the girls were on this roller coaster. Dad couldn't handle it and left them all. So it's about the two sisters in the 80s, and it also takes place now. So when I rewrote the book this summer, instead of just telling it from the younger sister's point of view, I told it from both sisters' point of view. Because I thought a lot about the title. You Can Only See Clearly From Here. The title happened for a couple reasons. One was that Mom was a photographer, failed photographer. And when I thought about the title, everybody's perceptions of what happened to them is theirs. So some of the same incidences happened to the sisters, but they saw each of those incidences so differently. So the story's told by both sisters with the chapters alternating, one sister then another sister. So this one is really, she looked at it again, the agent. I sent it back to her, which you're not supposed to do. She did read the whole thing. She, again, really liked it. decided to pass on it. But fortunately, I was ready at Lulu Publishing, and we put it out the very next week. So it was either she was going to take it and they were going to publish it, or I was going to publish it. I was just ready to have it out there. So that's, you can only see clearly from here. Do you want me to read an excerpt from something, or do you question? Okay. I think what I'm going to read, and this is in Rotten Peaches. This is kind of a standalone piece. And this one won the Ranker Award at Delta College. They do, honoring Skip Ranker, one of the instructors there, they do a writing award every year. And you submit a packet. It normally has some fiction and some poetry. They ask for some different things. And then the winner gets a $500 stipend, a beautiful plaque. And I won that contest with this story. It's called Food. It is 1977. I am 11 years old and I'm standing in the principal's office for the second time this week, calling my mother to see if she can bring some clothes to me at school. She sounds irritated that I'm calling her again in the middle of her afternoon stories. My face feels as if it is on fire. The bell rings, signaling the end of lunch period, and kids are going by in the hall, eyeballing me through the plate glass door, my shirt and slacks sopped with milk and food. Some of them point and laugh behind their hands, and when Debbie and Linda go by, Linda gives me a dark look, raising her left eyebrow. It is a warning. Don't tell her, you'll be sorry. I look away. My mother's voice continues to squawk through the receiver. She shows up with a brown paper bag that has my least favorite outfit in it, a blue plaid cotton dress. She has picked out brown knee socks to go with it. I know there are white ones and navy ones in my sock drawer, and that they, in fact, were closer to the top of the pile than the brown ones, which are an admonishment for disturbing Mother's afternoon. So is the dress. I look in the bottom of the bag and see she forgot to bring me a dry pair of underpants as well. I am wearing tennis shoes, which will look ridiculous with the dress and the knee socks. I sigh. I've already been beaten up once today. It seems to me that Mother is siding with the other team, setting me up for another round of ridicule when I ride the bus home this afternoon, making me wear this horrible outfit. I wonder how she can be so mean. Then I immediately feel ashamed for thinking it. She is my mother. I am supposed to love her. I hang my head and look at the speckled pattern on the floor tiles. I want to melt down into the floor and blend into the spots and swirls of beige and tan and white. She grabs my arm hard and leads me out into the hall to the little girl's bathroom, which is closest to the principal's office. She doesn't realize it is embarrassing for me to just be in this bathroom, which is only for kindergartners and first graders to use. Maybe she doesn't care. Or knowing Mom, it is her attempt at making a cruel point. Mom looks big in here with the short stalls and tiny toilets, bigger than she does at home. I don't like it. Why do you keep letting them do this to you? Is the first thing she says to me. I don't let them, I say, looking at the floor. They do it. I slide out of my shoes and slacks. My panties are soaked with milk and syrup from the peaches that were today's lunch. I look down in dismay at my sopped underpants and can't imagine going without them. My face reddens at just the thought of it. Mom doesn't even notice that they are drenched. She just peels my shirt off, wiping at my face with one of the dry sleeves. She handles the wet clothes as if they have poop and pee on them rather than milk and fruit juice, as if they disgust her. She wrinkles her pert nose. You don't let them, she scoffs. You have to learn to stick up for yourself, Catherine. You'll never get anywhere in life if you just let people walk all over you all of the time. She is tapping her foot impatiently on the tile floor, and the little tap, tap, tap echoes off the walls. She shoves the hateful dress over my head and makes a twirling motion with her fingers for me to turn around to get zipped up. I start to cry. I can, I say. Doesn't she understand what they'll do to me? Does she care? Debbie and Linda take much pleasure in torturing me as often as they're able. I'm not sure why, They seem to have a lot of girlfriends they could be busy with, popular girls too, especially blonde Debbie, who is petite and pretty. Linda is a big girl and has blinding red frizzy hair. She is a bully and has been since kindergarten. Nobody knows why Debbie took her under her wing this year, but they are as inseparable in 6th grade as 2 peas in a pod. The latest of their torturous repertoire has been finding me at lunch, sitting on either side of me, and pouring my carton of milk all over my food, especially on the 3rd Friday of the month when we get that coveted carton of chocolate milk. They do this slowly, while threatening what they will do to me if I tell, and describing in great detail just how they will hurt and humiliate me. Sometimes, like today, when I get the nerve to get lippy, they hit me. After they ruin my lunch, they tip the tray, spilling the food and milk all over my clothes. Somehow, no one else in class, nor the noon aide, Mrs. Gordon, who we all know is best friends with Debbie LaFron's mother, never sees this happening. Behind me, my mother sucks in her breath. Her hand is poised on the zipper tab at the small of my back. She pulls the dress open and turns me toward the light. "Well, that's it," she says, and drags me, protesting and wiggling, into the hall. My dress is undone and underpants exposed for anyone who might be lingering in the hall to see. My face is blazing with embarrassment. She pulls me toward the principal's office, my stocking feet allowing me no purchase on the highly waxed and buffed linoleum floor. She demands to see Mr. Kressler, holding me so hard by the arm that I will have a bruise later where her thumb sinks into my tender skin. I begin to cry harder, understanding that I am now doomed to have my school principal, spelled with a P-A-L, kids, because I'm your pal, see my underpants as well. Mom shows Mr. Kressler the bruises on my back. 3 neat, round blue spots where Linda got me with her knuckles. He swears he knows nothing about the things Linda and Debbie have been doing to me. They're such good students, he says, even though I've told my teacher and the noon aide numerous times about the things they do to me, even though they've seen my spoiled clothes and teary face and have sent me to the office 100 times to call my mother. When Mom demands something be done, she and Mr. Kressler decide that the best solution is to remove me from the lunchroom and the radar of Debbie LaFron and Linda Doyle. I am put on kitchen duty with Mrs. Kraus for the rest of the year. I fall in love with Mrs. Kraus, who has a German accent and is chubby and sweaty and always smiling. I adore being in the school kitchen with its stainless steel surfaces and vegetable smells, even though I get teased and I have to scrape trays that the other kids leave their messes on. I get to wear a white apron that Mrs. Kraus doubles up and ties tightly around my waist, and gigantic orange rubber gloves. I don't have to go outside for recess, and I learned how to use the big steam-spinning commercial dishwasher. Mrs. Kraus lets me have all the stewed spinach and red beets I want, because she gets a kick out of the fact that I am one of the only kids in school who likes them. Sometimes she even gives me an extra piece of her spicy apple cake and pats me gently on the back with her hammy red hands. When I grow up, I am always cooking for my family. I get a job as a sous chef in a restaurant. I am the one who gets called to make the birthday cakes and roast the Thanksgiving turkey and can stew tomatoes in shiny mason jars. The kitchen is where I retreat when I am sad or lonely or frightened. It is where I spend most of my time. I find my comfort in food, in my wide, soft thighs, and in my confident hands. And yeah, most of that's true. Do you guys have any questions? Yes, John.
Can you recite that poem that you wrote that made everybody tear up?
I don't have it with me. I don't have it with me, but the gist of it was, I was a really creative little kid. And what I have learned now, that I'm an older kid, is that I have to be creative. When I am not living a creative life, I'm a very unhappy and miserable person. I have a wall you can't get through. I get sick a lot. I'm miserable. And when I was a little kid, I guess I kind of knew that. I was a kid, but I didn't know how to talk about it. And when I wrote the poem, I was talking about how I kind of felt like a robot living with my parents. You know, I had this mom who was a teacher, who was very by rote, you know, telling me I had to stay in line, I had to be in that box. And I had a dad who was kind of happy-go-lucky, but sometimes just not there. You know, who I didn't feel like I could reach out to, because you had these two adults who were on a team. And then there was me. So the poem was about that, and about my sister, who could, she could pick up any instrument and play it. I wanted to play, and I had to struggle so hard to learn anything. And she could play piano and guitars and drums and horns, and she didn't throw up if she had to play in front of people. But she could play anything. So I just felt like I was so separate from the rest of my family. And the poem was about that. And I think when my French teacher talked with me, she said, you need to read this to people because these other kids feel like you feel. They feel separate from their family. And I guess I never saw that because they were always kind of the enemy too, you know? So I was that little kid, you know, that got their lunch spoiled by other kids. So it was hard for me to connect with them. And I found out that poetry, through that poem, I found out that was a way for me to connect with them. And after reading that, kids started approaching me in school. I was in a little, not cliques, but I was, you know, then in the drama club, and I got involved with some of that artistic stuff. The artistic kids kind of sought me out, so it was kind of cool. I was still kind of weird, I need to tell you, and remain so. But I don't have that with me. That'd be probably maybe a good thing, kind of embarrassing, but a good thing to bring sometime.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Yes?
Do you have a website?
Well, yes, and kind of no. I have one up. It is robindevereaux-writes.com.
Rice?
Writes, Robin Devereaux Writes, WRITES.com. I just got access to a server, so I can actually put a real website up, and you can link to my book sales and everything through it. So I have my son working on that with me. I've got some cards up here. My books are all available through Amazon. They're also available through lulu.com.
Stand up in high heels.
So that's LULU.com. I really prefer if you buy from Lulu because that's where I publish. When you buy a book from Lulu, I get 50%. When you buy from Amazon, I get $1 for my book. So that's, yeah, you know, or just contact me directly. I did do there's a sheet up here. I did do a discount for today on books, and I can take a credit card too if you have a credit card. I've got a swiper. But the website's being worked on, so it is there. Yes?
Did you have an agent when you were writing your books before you wrote this?
No. I've been trying to get an agent, which after I had the publishing experience, and talked to Rick Mercer. Here's what happens. You get a publishing deal, like I did with In Violet's Wake. They did give me an advance. I have not made a cent on my book since then. Because I have to sell enough books to recoup the advance, that they get my advance back before I start making money. And on my book, I only get 12% of the sale. They get the rest. So if you can imagine that percentage, when you get a book deal, if you have an agent, the agent gets 50% or 15% of your book deal. So the agent gets some, publisher gets a lot, writer gets not much. So I have gotten some, because my other books I did publish them, but they are available worldwide through Ingram, so libraries and booksellers can buy them. You can go on Amazon and buy them. You can go on barnesandnoble.com and buy them. You can go in Barnes & Noble and buy them. And then like Schuler Books carries my books, and some of the little libraries up north carry my book. I do get a royalty. So my largest royalty check was $97.62. And my smallest royalty check was 17 cents. So I like doing events like this because I actually like going out and taking my books and talking to people and just selling my books myself. I enjoy doing that. But the publishers do take a lot. And there's a huge trend now for indie publishing, partly because of that. The bad thing is, I guess, anybody can publish a book, and there are some pretty bad books out there. I was part of a website for a while where you can get free Kindle books every day because you can publish through this company, have your book in Kindle form, and some of them are pretty bad. I mean, one of them had so many typos, and the sad thing was it was kind of a good story, but there were so many errors in the book that I had to stop reading it because it was just, I mean, one page would have 50 errors on it. It was so badly put together. So even if you are an indie publisher and you can afford to hire an editor, do it, because it is really invaluable to have somebody, even if it's just, I don't have an editor anymore, but I do have a proofreader, and she goes through and finds all my English errors. So I pay her to do that. Because you don't catch them all, even though there's spell check and stuff on a computer, it doesn't catch everything. You really have to read it. And after I've read it 100 times trying to edit and rewrite, I don't see a lot of those errors. So it's really great to have another set of eyes. Another question? Yes.
If you hadn't accepted that $50,000 advance, it wouldn't take you so long to pay them off.
Well, I only wish it was $50,000. It was actually $7,500. And I don't know how many books I've sold. I have asked the company, and they will not provide me with any information. They told me that now that my contract with them is over, the book is published, they don't have to talk to me. So they have not spoken to me. The other problem with publishing, when I got my team, so I had 5 people who were working on my book with me, 5 besides me. The first time we met, we had a big conference call. Everybody got assigned different parts of my marketing or publishing that we would be doing. Then they didn't talk to each other. So no one knew what anyone else was doing, and I would call to ask a question and nobody knew what was happening. So it was really frustrating during that year of getting published. It was hard. So I don't know how many books I've sold. Yes?
Why don't you take your publishers to lunch and pour wine all over their...
Well, they live in California, and things move at a little different pace out there. Gotta tell you. So when I call them and I'm talking fast and doing my thing, and they were kind of just, hey, well, we have somebody who can help you with that. Who? Tell me who? Whatever you can help me. So yeah, it was really frustrating. I mean, I would not give up the experience, even for the frustrating parts, because I learned a lot. And I learned a lot, even of the negative parts, were when I started putting my own books together. So the most invaluable part, though, was the editor. They contract editors. That's not somebody who works for their company. So it was kind of an outside person. And I still stay in touch with her. She was just amazing. She was very, very easy to work with, had great ideas, and really helped make my book look professional. I didn't talk about that one, did I?
No, really?
This one is here in the library at Valley's Wake, and I think the first Nora Pepper is here, but I don't think you guys have number 2. So, and I think those are the only 2. This one was kind of born out of some tequila. I was out with some lady friends,
Right.
and unfortunately we were doing that thing lady friends do sometimes. We were kind of chitty-chatting about other people, and we were drinking some margaritas. And there was this woman that we knew who kind of went from man to man to man to man, and I said, wouldn't it be hilarious if all of our exes got together and kind of formed a support group. Then I got home and I went, damn, that's a funny idea. So In Violet's Wake is about 5 men who've all been married to Violet. And she's very charming and beautiful, and she's had a lot of therapy, and they all help pay for it because she really likes it. And they're trying to save number 6 from her, the one that got away, her high school beau, Jake. They're trying to find him before she can find him. And so they're behind her from Saginaw to Petoskey. So all of my books take place in Michigan. So that's kind of a cool thing about me, I think. The one I'm working on wasn't taking place in Michigan, but I think it's going to have to. I have to stay in Michigan because I love it here. So In Violet's Wake is kind of a comedy. So we have these guys, and they do some dumb guy stuff, but they're really, all together, they make up the perfect man. They're each a little bit different. And they start out really kind of hating each other because, Violet has left one to go to the next one, so they really kind of don't like each other. But as they are traveling together on their buddy road trip, they all come to kind of like each other a little bit. So, not the right ending, just letting you know. If you want to know the real ending, you got to email me. I also have a little book of haiku up here, and this was just kind of a fun thing I did last year. February is Haiku Rama month, Haiku Rama, and you write a haiku every day for each day of February, so I kind of put those together. And I've got some other poetry that's going to be coming out. The new book I'm working on, and besides Nora Pepper 3, and that one's half done, is called How to Disappear Almost Completely. It's a murder mystery. It has illicit sex. And carnies. So you can't go wrong. It's going to be kind of a dark comedy as well. I don't know when that one's coming out. I'm just kind of started working on that one. So any other questions?
Tell us about your writing habits.
Oh, sure, yes. That's a tough thing. When I first started doing this, I remember I told you I felt like I was kind of a faker. And people would walk up to me and go, they say, what are you doing? I go, I'm a writer. And they say, aren't you lucky? You can sit at home all day in your pajamas. No, you can't. Because when you sit at home in your pajamas, you're not serious about it. You really have to have a dedicated space. So I have an office at home. I write best in the morning, like early in the morning before stuff starts happening. After some coffee, it's really important. Usually anywhere prior to 8 till 10 or 11 is my good writing time before things start bugging me and the phone's ringing and people are emailing, and that's my best time. When I get down to the wire and I'm like towards the end of the book and I can't sleep sometimes because my characters are talking to me, because really that's what happens. And that happened a lot with Nora Pepper. I fought doing the Nora Pepper series. That was something that Rick kind of talked me into. He said you need to develop a character and write several different books with that character. He said folks really like that. They like a serialized story. So I finally did that, and I was kind of fighting it, but then Nora and the other characters started talking to me at night, late. So sometimes I need to get up in the middle of the night and write, especially when I get towards the end of the book, because I'm at the climax and I've just got to get it down. But generally, I'm a morning writer. You do have to really, you have to be dedicated to it. It's not easy. It's not easy for a lot of reasons. One of them is I'm kind of, I call myself a brave introvert, because if I could really just stay home all the time, I probably would. And when I'm really involved in writing, I do that a lot. I realize I haven't been outside in the world in like 5 days, so I need to go out and see people. So there's that part of it. So it's just really such a solitary thing. And it really takes a lot of work. And not just the writing part, but also the marketing part. I mean, my first thing I do in the morning when I first wake up, and I might be sitting up in bed and having a cup of coffee, is go on all of my Facebook pages, all of my sites, and I'm constantly putting little blurbs on there. So, because you have to be active and busy, and going on Twitter, and going on Instagram, and I'm always putting something up. Every morning I put something up on those sites. So it takes a lot of time. Yes?
Do your publishers provide your artists for your illustrations?
No, I do that. The only book I didn't do the cover for was In Violet's Wake. I was not totally happy with this. And in fact, this cover was blue until I finally talked them into violet with the little car for the road trip. Their favorite cover, it had a woman hanging upside down, just her silhouette with flowers on the bottom. I'm not sure what it was. But I sent them several cover ideas, and they just said to me, we don't want them.
Even your children's book?
The children's book, I illustrated all of that, yes.
Wonderful.
I'm an artist as well, and I do all my graphics for my other books. So yeah, these are all mine.
Terrific. Thank you.
And that's one reason I love it. I love this little book. It was born out of the Women's Center, but it was also kind of a love note to my kids and my grandkids, because I grew up with parents who didn't say I love you very much. We just didn't. Not that we didn't love each other, we just didn't talk about it. And so I wanted to say it a lot to my kids, and that book says it to my kids.
Are your parents still living to see your success?
My dad passed away 2 years ago. And the odd thing about my dad was he was a hillbilly from the hills, Skull Holler, West Virginia. It's a raffle, not a rifle. And he had terrible handwriting, and he would only sign his name. But towards his later years, he started writing poetry, and it was kind of hokey. It was all rhyming, and there were funny stories about growing up in the mountains. And he put out 2 books of poetry. I helped him publish them before he passed away. And like about a year or so before he passed away, he finally kind of said to me how cool this was. And I had started writing Rotten Peaches at that time. And so I would read my dad those stories, because Rotten Peaches is really kind of funny. And the people in Rotten Peaches are kind of like our relatives from the mountains. They're kind of like those folks I heard stories about my whole life. So he really was kind of into it. My mom is still with us. She has Parkinson's and COPD, so she's kind of sick. She's still very, I know she's proud of me, because she tells all the gals at the nursing home how proud she is of me, but she would not say it to me if I held a fork to her neck. She would not say it, because they're always telling me how, like, oh, your mom's so proud of you. She's got some bookmarks with my pictures of my books on them, so she gives them to everybody all the time. So she is proud of me, but she would never tell me. Doesn't want me to know. That might go in my head. It would be a good thing. So yeah, I mean, towards the end of their life, it took a long time. A long time. Yes?
Do you have enough venues to be able to sell your book like that?
No! I don't. I have to do all the stuff that my agent would do. So usually, like about this time of year, I start calling independent bookstores and things. I've stuck kind of to Michigan, and making dates for me to come in libraries. There's a library in Breckenridge as well. They've had me a few times, and they're going to actually have me do some writing workshops with kids there, partner with the high schools. So I do writing workshops and creativity workshops as well. But no, I don't have enough of an outlet, and it's tough because I have to do all of that and figure out what I'm going to write and go take care of my mom, and some do laundry sometimes. You still got to do all that, that stuff at home. That's, so my house is like a horror show half the time. But, sometimes you got stuff you got to write down. Yes.
Do you ever get writer's block, and if you do, how do you get over it?
No, I don't. I don't believe in it. Here's what I do. If I get stuck on a story, and basically what I feel like I'm doing is I'm just taking notes for these characters that are in my books, because they're telling me everything. So I'm kind of just writing the story down. But if I get to a spot where I'm stuck, I will move on to something else. Like I might be working on an article, so I might do that. I might get up and paint something, do some laundry. I just kind of keep moving during the day. And I think if you don't, writer's block is like the devil. If you don't let the devil get a hold of you, then it's not going to affect you. So if I just kind of ignore that stuck feeling, get up and do something else, even if it's going to take my dog for a walk or anything, it kind of frees me up. The thing that frees me up the most writing-wise is drawing or doing something else that's creative in a different way. Because as I'm sitting there drawing or painting, I can start hearing those characters again, or start hearing what's supposed to happen in the story. So there is no writer's block. Don't believe it. Any other questions? Okay.
Do you live in Linwood?
Not anymore. I'm in Saginaw. Our farm is still there. My son lives on the farm. Just got some chickens yesterday. I'm really excited. And the only thing I can think about is how I hated those chickens when I was a kid. I hated those chickens. Now they're so cool. So we just got that yesterday. So it's still our family farm. It has been our family farm since 1942. My grandfather owned a machine shop in Flint, and he owned the whole square, so the whole big mile square. His family had some money. My grandma's family was very, very, very poor, so it was that love story thing, you know, the rich prince and the Cinderella kind of coming together. And he used to have a plane, and he would land it in the field. He would fly from Flint back to the farm, and we had farm hands and everything. It was a big working farm, so that's still in our family. I live in Saginaw with my husband and various grandchildren. Yes.
Where is the farm?
It's in Linwood.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's in Linwood. So, and I'm really a Bay City girl. When we got married, we had 2 houses, and I moved to Saginaw. I'm not sure why I did that, because we keep migrating back here. So this is our intent, is to be back in Bay City. So everything's happening here. Oh yes, hi.
Your first story that you read about the children
Mm-hmm.
and they were being bullied so much,
Mm-hmm.
what advice do you have about bullying?
Tell somebody. Don't be quiet. I think, and you know, we talked about this, we have a lot of women in the room, and we talked about this at my workshop this week. It was a survivors workshop. And I think women are really taught to carry a lot on their shoulders and to be quiet about it, and not cry, and toughen up, and we carry so much stuff. And when I was bullied as a kid, that it wouldn't have been cool to tell. A, you're going to get beat up more, that's what you believe. My parents would have told me, suck it up or punch him back. And I'm not a punch back kind of kid. I'm like, hey, peace and love, let's hug a tree and sing Kumbaya. That's me. You know, when these kids didn't want to sing Kumbaya, they wanted to, pound me. So I think but what happened then was, just to get a little personal, is that taught me how to have a relationship with an abuser. So my young relationship was with an abuser, because that's what people do, and you don't talk about it. So I think that kids, we need to really be a family of humans, and when you see it happening to other people, you need to say something, you need to talk about it, you need to put your hand out and offer a fellowship, and if it's happening to you, you need to tell somebody. You need to tell somebody safe, So, and that was really, most of that story, it was true about me. I did have 2 girls. One was named Debbie, and they would come every day, and we had those desks that lifted up, and they would spill my lunch all over me, a lot. And my mom really was a teacher, so she couldn't come and take care of me or bring me clothes at school. She came a couple times, not happy, and I had to go through the rest of the day like that. So, and the funny thing is, when the books came out, you know we have Facebook now, everybody knows everybody. So there were all these people from high school. They were like, Robin, hey, we were friends in high school, remember me? Robin wrote a book. I don't know, they think I have a lot of money or something. It's like, I'm driving a Subaru, and these all came from the thrift store. I'm just saying, just saying. I was like, yeah, you beat me up on the bus. They weren't pals. So I have those folks who, they kind of sought me out. You know, when the cheerleaders, they were so popular. They had the Farrah haircut. Yeah, we weren't friends. So yeah, but they get a hold of me. So it's just kind of a thing. Any other questions? I do have books for sale. If you want to buy a book, I'll sign it for you. Or you can find them online. But please, like I said, order from Lulu if you can. If you're more comfortable with Amazon, you can get them there. And Barnes & Noble will always order for you if they don't have them in stock, and they do have some of them in stock. Please let any of your teacher friends know about my kids' book. It is really, I'm really proud of it because it's about diversity and self-esteem and just spreading the love. So, kind of cool. Thank you so much.